Welcome to the CaLew Perspective. Hi, John. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you, Harold?
Awesome.
Great.
I think we've got a great topic today. What do you want to talk about?
Well, what do I really want to talk about, or what are we going to talk about?
What are we going to talk about?
We're going to talk about UAPs,
Okay.
UFOs,
All right.
aliens, maybe?
Aliens.
Yeah.
That's going to be a great topic here. We have some great, information we want to just kind of throw around, kind of a different perspective on things.
Yeah.
But in any case, UAPs. That's a kind of a regrouping, a rename for UFOs.
Yes, because I don't remember UAPs being mentioned when I was younger.
No,
I never heard of that.
They changed that name, and so the understanding of that, the reason why, and I was kind of curious as to why they changed it from UFOs to UAPs, and it indicated that it was sort of to eliminate the stigma of alien versus that kind of thing, and everybody, UFOs sort of has this stigma that aliens from another world or so, and UAPs was sort of the coin phrase is unidentified aerial phenomena.
Okay.
Which basically, in a sense, it is a phenomena that is talks about objects that could be submerged. It could be a transmedium phenomena that cannot be immediately explained.
Okay.
Is what it says. The objects that can be in the air, could be in the sea. They can also be in space. So
interesting, because we don't think of like UFOs. We think of in the sky,
exactly,
right? In the air, space,
right?
We don't think underneath the water. Oh,
yes,
yeah.
But you think about that. I mean, if you can travel through space and time itself, you would have the ability to go underwater and wouldn't have the same constrictions that we have.
I guess so, yeah.
In that regard, because you've defied, space itself, and to be able to move at a speed that is outside of our cone of understanding, and that's what it talks about at UAPs, is that they are able to move at unexplained speeds and then material.
Oh, yeah.
You think about that. The kind of material that we have versus the kind of material that is part of that would supersede probably the kind of materials that we're accustomed to or familiar with scientifically.
Scientifically, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But
that's scary. Not scary, but it's it's really cool to think of.
Well, it is, but it can be scary. Yeah. It can be scary to a lot of people out there that are just not really with that sort of rationale in their thought. The scientific community wants to see more definitive answers to what it is that is being seen. Now, in that regard, I mean, that's where it takes us to, we come back to the UFO, but again, these are phenomenal elements that we don't have
there's no explanation. Right. Concrete explanation, maybe. Right.
Exactly. Like even the scientific.
Yeah, right. Like scientists, they want the proof. They want to know that, hey, this is what exactly it is. There's no way.
And the government has offices in place to study this phenomenon. Yeah. And in doing so, I mean, they've been, taking reports from military as well as from the general public to sort of follow up on these things. But I mean, it dates back. It dates back,
yeah. Like, so we did some research here, right? So the first widely publicized UFO sighting was in 1947.
Okay.
Up in Washington State. So let me see. Kenneth Arnold, he was a businessman. He claimed to have spotted a group of high-speed crescent-shaped flying objects while piloting his own plane.
Okay.
So again, in the air, he was piloting his own plane, saw these.
And this is 1947.
47.
So if you think about the kind of air flights that we have in 1947 versus what we have today, and you talk about these crescent-shaped disc or whatever they were flying at that time.
Nothing existed.
There's nothing existed like that we knew of.
That we knew of. Nothing existed, right? So how do you explain that? And I think that's kind of what kicked off that whole UFO craze.
So what do you think about in Roswell? Because Roswell happened in 1947 as well. Although there was a crash, that is what is coined in the Roswell area over there. And it was a farmer that basically found the crash site.
Yeah. See, so that kind of stuff, you're always a little is the government hiding something because these events happen?
Yes.
And you would cause, again, the mass panic and hysteria because people aren't ready for it. I think
that would be the reason that the government would sort of shroud this over. And again, with the Roswell situation, when they found what it was that crashed, this farmer, in a sense, said that he had found this alien body and all this other stuff, and then they had to go into really quick, kind of discouraging that kind of
It's
framework.
It's not what
And
was found.
moved all the material real fast.
Yep.
Away from that,
Yep.
and so it sort of then started to make the general public become skeptical of because it started to wonder, well, are they holding back information from the general public that should be announced to everyone? But think about it, though. If they announced that to the general public, I mean, it would create such mass hysteria that chaos would reign, and people wouldn't know what to do, and then they would lose control of being able to continue in our day and life of just keeping law and order. Because it would be like, this has been let out of the box now, and the government has acknowledged that this exists.
We're not alone.
Exactly. So there are organizations that are put in place to sort of study this, and the scientific community says, well, we have no definitive proof of it. But when you think about it, I saw a study that said there's this organization that has kept a database that is from 1937 to 2000. It was 2022.
Okay.
And they said that
recently.
They've been keeping track of all the sightings, and they said they have over 123,000 sightings of UFOs that have been reported in that length of time. When you think about that, and that becomes sort of a mind-boggling sort of concept of wrapping your thought around it, in the sense that 123,000 sightings, and you ask yourself the question, well, how could that all be fake?
The odds are very slim that all of them are fake.
And so then you say, well, we've discredited those as being weather balloons or
whatever
or space junk or phenomenal, that kind of thing, to sort of kind of curve that off. But there have been certain ones that have actually taken photographic images, and this is what we tell ourselves when we see these images. We say, well, it's probably fake, or there's someone kind of superimpose these things. And you see this because human nature, we tend to sort of say, okay, we're going to take advantage of the human perception and put this out. But then there are others that have images of things that were not doctored, and so we sort of wrote those off as conspiracy theories, in that sense. So
no, it's very true. Like you think about that, like you're saying, they had 123,000. What are the odds that even 98% of those are fake?
Yes,
maybe it's 98%, but you still have 2%, 3%, whatever it is that's still true. That happened that you cannot explain. So it's very interesting to hear that there's that many accounted for in that amount of time.
Well, so what do you think about, I mean, even if we move up to current times, I mean, I've seen where some of the reports came out recently from the Pentagon where they've shown that pilots actually saw things that they couldn't explain. And they couldn't explain. And the speed of what it was that was moving superseded anything they were familiar with. And these guys, typically, they travel.
When you're talking about modern airplanes right now.
Absolutely.
You're not talking about 1940s.
No, I'm talking about
airplanes that you're like, like you're talking about modern airplanes, modern pilots, who know what the technology that we have today is. Yeah. And they know what the difference is when they see something that's zooming past them and
you're making them stand still. And you're thinking about they're moving at a plane that's moving at a fairly substantial speed. And this supersedes anything that they've seen. And they reported this. They had it on their blip. So you ask yourself the question, is that real? Was it being doctored? Is it being fake? Why these guys right here, they're the best of the best in aviation.
Yeah.
And they're up here saying this right here is outside of our cone of comprehension here.
And what could be like a possible, why would I as a pilot want to fake that?
Well, that's the question.
Right. Like beyond getting rich and famous, which some people, of course, some people want, not everyone, but a lot of people do. But again, you think about a pilot saying, I saw this stuff. Like I couldn't name a pilot that has made that assumption or accusation, right? So they're not getting famous. They're not.
Right.
Is my point, right?
Right.
They're not getting famous. They're not making money on this.
Even for them to even say that, they sort of risk their own
They think
professionalism.
they're crazy.
Yes,
they think they're crazy
because people want to do that because it's been that, and that's where the UFO stigma has been sort of washed away because the unidentified aerial phenomena sort of opens it out to the potential.
Right.
But then the scientific community still says we don't have any evidence of any life forms outside of, Earth that we know of.
Yeah.
But then it sort of brings me to this question where, are we ready as humans globally to meet something or someone from another star, another galaxy, another place and planet?
Even planet.
Are we ready for that? Because the hard part is that when I look at it, we have a hard time getting along with our neighbor.
Yeah, we can't.
Someone different than ourselves.
We can't even accept people from other countries.
Absolutely, and so
you want to talk about other planets,
another planet from another place.
Oh my gosh, who might not even look like us.
Absolutely, and so then we
don't even know what they look like.
And so that's where, I would think if I was from another place and I was coming here. And I saw this and I wanted to make contact. And I realized after my observation, and I would be able to observe far greater than what your capabilities are here on Earth.
Yeah.
I would say they're not ready. And I don't know how I could get them ready to meet me.
Well,
so I would have to slowly drop over the course of time, breadcrumbs and water drop certain things to get them to the place where we are now, to have this conversation like we're doing now in this perspective, to say that, okay, are we ready to make first contact? Yeah. We've seen movies, we've seen their movies or what they've done, and they've been and we've given the government certain pieces, and the government is holding tight to that because they know that if they let that out of the box, chaos is going to reign. So we've got to slowly and it may take generations before it's ready because right now they can barely get along with each other. True. That kind that kind of mindset. Yeah. So I would say that, time is on our side from my standpoint because we've just come from this black hole that's on the other side of the universe. Right.
Maybe in seconds they can travel over here.
Because I've got that kind of technology and these guys are not ready for this, so I cannot just unleash that. Yeah, yeah. Now that's just a hypothetical.
It's a hypothetical, perspective. It makes sense. And then you think of the events that have been happening the past few months and years where instead of saying, again, UFO, UAP, people are now calling these drones.
Yes. Well, you heard about that recently.
Yeah, and you can see them, right? The ones that were flying over Washington, D.C. There are some spotted in New Jersey. But then when you see pictures of them, they look like drones. Yes. They've got the red and the green lights, flashing just like a drone or some type of aerial object would have. It's not like it's like the spinny, stuff where you can't explain how does that work? Where are they pulling energy from? It's like, it's a drone. So people are calling it a drone.
Okay.
Right. So now, is that, again, like you're saying,
what if I was to tell you, and what if I said this and just say hypothetically, okay, if I was from another place and I said, well, in order to sort of be able to get the acceptance and I still want to get close and I'm still wanting to observe, they're using these things called drones. Yeah. So what if we did this as, you and I are observing, we're here from this other place. Right. Why not use these drones to sort of get them just another step closer to what.
So it doesn't look like
it doesn't look
foreign
alien,
to us.
Foreign to the humans.
It's like
here.
Something that's in our current technology today.
How would that, now one of the things that sort of adds to that conspiracy theory in a sense is that they were saying that these drones, when spotted, they would suddenly disappear.
They disappear. And now, did they disappear just like poof, or did they disappear?
They're not saying. And what's kind of interesting is that so far right now, the government hasn't really said anything very much about them. And you kind of think, well, wait a minute. If you've got foreign objects flying over parts, especially military.
Washington, D.C.
You got military
Military,
installation,
you
and
got
this
the
is spotted
president,
over
you
there.
got government
And you're saying
officials.
that you're kind of like nonchalant on
Right.
this kind of thing. I don't. It's
You
hard
don't
for
buy
me
it.
to. It's hard for me to believe that
Yeah.
it's not being investigated at a higher level than what is being let off to the general public.
Right.
But if that was the case, I would think that again, as some people would say, the conspiracy theory or theorist would say that, well, the government is sort of overshadowing that because they don't really
want to
want
make it seem more
absolutely
than
and again,
what it is
think
today.
about it. I mean, people are concerned because it's flying over their homes.
Right.
And they're like thinking, well, this kind of upsets me. And I'm thinking, well, again, it goes to that sort of mind frame where if you were given that indication that it was real, that a potential possibility, then what do I go out and buy guns and do I start getting ready
getting rations, getting food,
and
stocking
start
up.
digging a hole all these kinds of
bunker,
things.
all
Absolutely.
that
So
stuff.
that's the sort of thing that you don't want to necessarily have. But again, as an outsider flying in, I would say, well, when do we have this moment where we can make first contact with humanity here on this blue marble? Now, if we step way back, the question has always been pondered on the minds of a lot of folks.
That was where I was going to go.
Where in this universe do we belong? Are we the only ones on this?
Are there aliens?
Absolutely.
Is the next question, right?
Yes. And so look at it. I mean, you think here in the galaxy, the Milky Way galaxy,
how many stars,
trillions of stars
are not discovered from us, right? And we never will.
In this whole
we absolutely will never discover
just in this galaxy.
Yeah.
And there's this little blue marble that's sitting out here in the middle of nowhere by itself. And with a biological life form called humans here that exist in this world, in this planet.
Yeah.
And you're asking yourself, when you look at this trillions of stars that are in this galaxy, and then our neighboring galaxy, the Andromeda galaxy, over had trillions and trillions of stars and planets and et cetera. And we're saying, now, those two galaxies on a bigger scale, when you start to think about the trillions of galaxies.
Exactly, yeah. It's one of trillions.
And you say, well, this little blue marble is the only unique place.
Yeah.
And this is not to scare anyone, but you kind of ask yourself the big question that, okay, could there very well be other civilizations? I think you had something, civilizations.
So I think too that when people on us, right, as humans, civilization, when we look out for space exploration, right, we always look for planets that can sustain human life.
Yes.
Human life.
Correct.
We assume that humans are not the only life, but the advanced life that we are.
Biologically. Okay.
So that's why we always look for human life, and we always look at planets that can sustain human life, or maybe that's life in general, but human life. Are there other planets that we're just not capable of understanding that could sustain life that is not human, but that is extremely advanced?
See, that's the part I think where fear comes in.
Right.
Because in that case, let's say that War of the Worlds, and everybody probably have seen this, the modern day, they had a earlier version, War of the Worlds, but it's kind of went on the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
That here are these elements that came from another place
that
basically used human as their means to live.
Yeah.
And they were consuming those humans.
Yeah.
And so we sort of have this mindset that if something like that existed outside and had this kind of technology or technologically advanced civilization, that they basically found us, that we suddenly found ourselves sort of at the
mercy?
The mercy of
really,
that.
the mercy, right? That's what we always think of.
Absolutely.
It's like we're all going to die.
Well,
is what we always think.
The thing is that we find ourselves sort of exerting ourselves as superior over the next person,
right?
And then when we find out there's something that's
more
even
superior, far
then
superior,
suddenly now we sort of find ourselves in a helter skelter sort of mindset.
Yeah.
Well, we've got to run, and
Right.
where do you go? Okay, so here we find the same sort of dynamic in the UFO alien sort of mindset. And
Yeah.
so when we see things that we don't fully understand, and then the governmental agencies are not quantifying the fact that this is existing,
Yep.
then we sort of say, okay, then you find there are conspiracy theorists basically saying, well, I've got this documentation and this does sort of exist. I'm still waiting for something or someone to say, here, we've got first contact.
Mm.
And,
Yeah.
and when you say that, it changes everything.
Yeah. I mean, that's just people can't handle that.
Right now,
You just know that
there's
people
just no
cannot
way
handle
that.
that.
So even so even if you think about UFOs that could defy gravity as we know it,
yeah.
and they could go underwater,
Right.
they could be here on this planet right
man.
now, observing us from all different angles.
Everywhere.
I would, and I would say that if you were walking amongst humans, you would stealth yourself. You would maybe move, and this is going to be wide for all our mindsets. But if you're moving at a higher frequency, you could be right here in this space right here with us, and we not even see you or even know you're there.
Right,
but you're moving at such a higher frequency that our comprehension, our visibility, we could not even see that.
Yeah. Well, you think of, like you were talking about civilizations and trillions of stars and planets, and there's the odds are there are other life forms out there that we just don't know.
So now, I thought you had some research or something that you found there on the civilization.
The civilization piece, right? There's something called the Kardashev scale.
Okay.
And that is basically, if I look at my notes here, it's the measurement of how much energy is needed to control something. So they basically rate civilizations on it's a three type civilization.
Okay.
And the first type, which is a type 1, is that you're able to access all of the energy available on its planet and store it for consumption. So, for instance, Earth, if we were to harness all of the elements and the energy available, right, we'd be considered a type 1 civilization.
Okay.
Now, today, currently, we are at a 0.76 or something like that. We're not even at a 1 just yet. But because we haven't harnessed the full potential of all the energy here, and that could be fusion, renewable, solar, wind, right? Water. But you think of kind of the steps that we've taken to get from a zero technology, right? When people, way back when there was nothing to actual today.
Okay.
There were some things that we, were very positive, like the Industrial Revolution came about that helped accelerate that piece. Mm-hmm. But in my research and my findings is that, people don't think we can get to at least the full type 1 for another 1 to 200 years.
See, that I've heard something about that. Yeah. When you think about that.
Years, yeah. So that means we're not going to be fully able to use all the resources that we have on Earth to turn that into energy so that we can power and do different things.
Okay.
And then the type 2 expands that out so that the civilization can directly consume a star's energy. So we would be taking our sun's energy.
Okay.
So, there's all these other principles. You can look up the Dyson
So how does that work, though? I mean, if you're taking the sun's energy, meaning that you're harnessing that energy of the sun and using it
for the sun, yes. Solar, there's all these, all these other explosions and fusion, everything goes on in the sun. Utilizing all of that in your civilization. So that's unfathomable for us, right? Will we ever get there? Definitely, we won't even get to
that's a lot of energy.
In our lifetimes.
It's a lot of energy. What would you have on Earth that would consume? I
don't know. I mean, that's the scary part too. Think about what are you powering? Maybe you're powering many more planets than just Earth.
Okay.
Right. Okay. What if you're going to Mars now? And you're able to cultivate a civilization on Mars, and you can use the energy from the sun.
So do you think that's what Elon Musk is planning on doing?
Yeah, but maybe, right? Maybe that's in the future.
Yeah.
Of saying, hey, this is how we harness the energy.
Okay.
Mars, because you think about if you go to Mars or another planet, you got to harness that energy from that planet. Mm-hmm. But how do you get that?
Right.
How long did it take Earth just to get to where we are today? How many centuries did it take?
Maybe E equals MC squared.
It does, though.
You know?
That's true. But how do you get it?
Okay.
So that would be the next step for us as a type 2 civilization. And then a type 3 is that you're able to capture all of the energy emitted by its galaxy and every object within it, including black holes. So like the Milky Way galaxy
is a wild.
Like, how do you even, I can't even think of all that.
So if you think about that, the 3 steps, you got the civilization 1 that you mentioned, civilization 2, and civilization 3.
Right.
There's got to be some in between.
Yeah. So they think that's what that, like, more recently, they, you know, they're saying, hey, this isn't the best scale to go off of because it's only defined as 1, 2, 3, where there's got to be multiple steps
in between.
There's multiple steps to get to 1. And then there's a monumental amount of steps from 1 to 2 to 2 to 3.
Well, think about that. So, do you think about the third step?
Yeah.
Where you're talking about harnessing energy equivalent from a galaxy.
Yeah.
And a galaxy is trillions of stars and planets.
How big is that? It's vast, right?
Absolutely.
And so you can
harness that kind of thing.
So you'd be out crazy. I mean, it would be. You just, so that's why you think, when you think of like aliens and people, you know, does life exist outside of us? More than likely it does, in my opinion.
Okay.
And also more than likely they're probably more advanced than we are and we could ever be. So that we go back to kind of our theories of, hey, if you're blending in, well, they're able to travel to our galaxy in, you know, seconds or minutes or hours, right? It's like taking a plane trip from here to Washington, D.C., California to Washington, D.C., you know, going 3,000 miles. They can go, you know, 1,000 times that, right? In
think about that, though. If you know, even for us, because you would have to. And you think about it, if they're moving at the speed of light and sort of with the I'm trying to think their theory of what relativity indicates.
No, I know where you're going with this.
You're not even going to age in that time frame.
They won't age, but we will. We will. Yeah, so look, the name of that movie, that was the Marvel Infinity Wars.
Oh, Infinity. Okay.
When Steve Rogers, remember, he was at the very end.
Yes.
He went back in time, but then he came back in 10 seconds. Right. And everyone was the same age, but for him it had been like 40 years.
So you can see that time dilation.
Yes.
Sort of. Okay.
Exactly. Okay. Right. So that would be the same, right? When your type 3 civilization, maybe even a type 2 civilization.
Okay. So now if you think about that, the energy of a galaxy, you could see how that energy would then be needed, because then you can break down that material, transport it to another space and time in a matter of seconds.
Whatever it is.
Or even milliseconds.
Yeah.
It's just a flash.
Yeah.
So if we're talking about someone being amongst us right now, they could actually be here observing us close, but not making any contact.
Right.
And they would be a vibration. We may not even know that they're there.
We might know they're there. Yeah.
That kind of goes into Star Trek.
It gets even like, even into more of that, like theory and stuff that we just can't.
And it's difficult for us to even wrap our minds around Star Trek. And it's still something that we've created in our own imagination.
And how long ago was that even created? In the 60s,
I'm going to say
50s?
that was in the 60s.
Yeah. So this whole thing has been around for quite some time.
Yeah.
So it's not new.
Well, you know, I remember back there was a documentary or something that indicated that when Columbus sailed, they saw some lights out over the ocean.
Oh, really?
And that's 1492.
1492.
And they saw these lights, and they didn't know what the answer was on that.
Crazy.
And I don't know. So there are unexplained elements that we don't have really full definitive understanding of it. But I think, again, we're not ready mentally.
No.
As humanity to embrace something outside of our cone of understanding. Yeah. I mean, we can't wrap our minds around that.
We can't wrap our minds around it, and we can't. Yeah.
We're still in the premature wars that we're having, you know, and that's what we're doing right now. So,
yeah, no, it's very true. So it's interesting. Yeah. What a topic, though, huh?
Yes. You know, we could go on and on and steer this.
Like just the UAP, UFOs, it branches out into so many different topics that we can go through. Yeah. You just think of, just like we were talking about, you could talk about aliens, and you could talk about government conspiracies and cover-ups, and all these pieces, and then what the people have seen, and all these videos and places, and even we didn't even talk about the Phoenix Lights or any of those elements right there. You kind of think, okay, what is that about? You know. So what would you say, Harold, about UAPs? Like what is your, after you did some research, after you look through all this, what do you think?
I would say that there's something that is out there,
Yeah.
whether it is good or bad, whether it's evil or whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
But there's something, because it's difficult for me to say that this creation right here only exists for humans in this little blue marble that's sitting out in the middle of nowhere, so to speak.
Yeah.
And to think about the vastness of the universe, that even over at the other side of the universe, that there is not any other place. Now, there may, like you said earlier, biologically speaking, there may not be any other humans like us that exist, but there could be other life forms, whether they were mechanical or whether they're driven by some type of other sort of energy that exists that we're not ready yet to make contact.
Yeah.
And so I'm hoping one day that we have the mental ability to get along with each other, that we could be ready for a contact from another place, another time. But right now, I think we're still trying to figure out just
our own planet, our own world.
Absolutely. So until then, next time we'll come back with this topic again, and maybe we'll have some
other topics that were branched out from this. I think we're definitely going to find that there's other topics we can discuss.
So now, because we always like to close with an act of kindness of sort. Christmas is coming up.
It is,
and we're like looking at this, and we're saying, okay, well, should we do anything kindness for Christmas? And I say, what we're going to do is we're going to wish everyone a very wonderful holiday season between now and the end of the year.
New Year's, Happy New Year as well.
Yes.
So, we wish all of our listeners, viewers, happiest of holidays for whatever you celebrate, and a Happy New Year. We wish you a great 2025.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
From us. Till next time.
So next time, we'll see you again.
Then.
Bye.
Bye.